Divine prayer of redemption, 3 miraculous blessings against enemies and envy for shocking abundance. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, turmoil engulfed Israel as King David felt the weight of betrayal seep into his bones. The hearts of the people, once staunchly devoted to their king, had turned, seduced by the false promises of his son, Absalom. With every rumor and whisper, David's throne nearly toppled under the burdens of a rebellion that pierced deeper than any sword. As the city of Jerusalem once prospered under his reign, it now lay poised on the edge of chaos, with David fleeing the very walls that held the memories of a united nation. The ancient Mount of Olives rose before him, a steadfast witness of the unfolding tribulations, where olive trees adorned against a dim sky appeared to bow in mourning. David found himself kneeling upon the stony ground, raw emotion oozing from his heart, a heart that ached for a son yet longed for loyalty and trust. "O Lord, my rock and my redeemer," he cried into the stillness, "restore me from this anguish. Deliver me from my enemies, for I am but a wandering sheep amidst wolves." His voice trembled, the echoes trembling upward, seeking solace, a promise of divine intervention that sprang from enduring faith. As the king's prayers filled the air, Abiathar and Zadok, the priests of the Lord, remained resolute, carrying the sacred artifacts, symbols of worship and hope. They had defied Absalom's treason, choosing instead to stand by David, reaffirming that God's anointed would not walk alone amidst the storm. With each holy relic they bore, David's spirit began to rally. Despite the weight of his anguish, he had allies whose loyalty burned bright, igniting a flicker of hope in the encroaching darkness. Meanwhile, Hushai navigated the dangers within Jerusalem, a loyal friend armed with wisdom, a weapon even more powerful than blades of steel. David cherished the fellowship of those who chose faith over fear, recognizing God's unerring hand at work through the treacherous maze of betrayal. "If I could only see Jerusalem once more," the king mused, an ember of faith igniting within him, fueled by the steadfastness of his companions. And yet uncertainty clawed at the edges of his resolve, gripping the hearts of his loyal followers, breeding resentment and doubt. As confusion churned among David's ranks, he leaned on the promise etched in his heart, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you." There, in the turmoil, courage began to take root, nourished by faith, staving off the encroaching shadows that hung over his kingdom like the threat of an abysmal night. As night descended, a stillness enveloped Mount Olives, shrouding David in a silence that spoke more than he could express. Why this rebellion? Why such turmoil amidst his steadfast resolve to honor God? With each question that lingered in the air, the profound mystery of divine sovereignty weighed heavily upon him. These ponderings thirsted for resolution, a divine plan that might one day transform his anguish into flourishing abundance. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With God as his guide, David surveyed the uncertain path before him, feeling the pulse of the promise that lay beyond turmoil, a kingdom awaiting restoration, a heart poised to embrace peace once more. The journey towards redemption beckoned, fraught with strife yet laced with hope, as the King of Zion stepped forward into the unfolding mystery of God's will, prepared to embrace all that lay ahead. As dawn broke over the desolate landscape, casting feeble light upon the Mount of Olives, David rose from the earth that had cradled his despair. The morning air hung heavy with the scent of dew, a reminder of God's covenant steadfast and renewing. He turned to his companions, whose faces bore the marks of shared anguish, and with a voice emboldened by prayer, he declared, "Arise, let us go forth, for the God of Israel has not forsaken us." With renewed determination, the king traversed the path that wended through the olive groves, mindful of the shadows that loomed ever threatening. The priests, Abiathar and Zadok, followed closely behind, bearing the Ark of the Covenant, its sacred presence a potent reminder of God's faithfulness. David understood that this journey was not merely one of flesh and blood but intertwined with spiritual warfare, where faith stood as a shield against the advancing tide of rebellion. As the procession moved onward, whispers echoed through the trees. Israelite men and women, feeling the tremors of uncertainty, gathered to bear witness. Among them, men of valor, known for their strength and courage, stared at David with faltering hearts, unsure whether his throne was still tenable against Absalom's might. Yet David, empowered by the Lord's presence, called out to them, "Fear not. Trust in the Lord, for he fights our battles. He will redeem his anointed." In the depths of his heart, a deep-seated anguish twirled with a fervent hope. David recalled the words of the prophet Nathan, who had anointed him king, the promise that his lineage would never cease. With each step, he clung to the belief that God's plan encompassed not only his survival but the legacy of God's chosen people. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Absalom, driven by ambition and the whispers of deceit, dined with his trusted advisers. He fortified his resolve to establish dominance over his father's legacy. Hearing of David's flight made him bold, his ambition to acquire the throne seethed like a cauldron of boiling water. "Send for Ahithophel," he commanded, his voice dark and unyielding. "His counsel will secure my reign." Thus, a net of treachery spun tighter around the nation, and the hearts of the people were caught in the divide between father and son. Absalom proclaimed himself king with great ceremony, summoning those who would respond to his call. Yet, unbeknownst to him, a divine plan unfolded, a tapestry woven with threads of betrayal, restoration, and ultimately, prophecy fulfilled. At the edge of the wilderness, David paused. He could feel the weight of the kingdom pressing down, yet within, a quiet assurance stirred. "O Lord," he prayed, "you see my plight, let not the counsel of the wicked prevail against your anointed." And as if the heavens answered, a messenger arrived, breathless with news: "Absalom has seized Jerusalem." But the hearts of the people are swayed, divided like the rivers of this land. Stirred by this report, David turned once again to his companions. "We shall not stand idly by. Let us strategize and seek the counsel of the Lord. For it is he who holds the fate of our lives and our kingdom in his mighty hands." There, under the shade of ancient olive trees, as unity blossomed between the faithful few, David sensed a profound mystery arousing within him. How could such chaos pave the way for redemption? What purpose might yet spring forth from the ashes of rebellion? In the far plains, the murmurs of prophecy fluttered like wings within the hearts of those who dared to believe. "For I know the plans I have for you," declared the Lord through the whispers of his Spirit, plans to prosper and not to harm, to give hope and a future. It was then that David realized, amidst his prayers and supplications, that the hand of God was intricately weaving a story of deliverance not just for him but for all Israel. Yet with each beat of his heart, an impending confrontation loomed closer, a revelation awaited in the shadows. What divine confrontation awaited God's anointed amidst the growing storm? The path stretched on, beckoning all to witness the unfolding of his sovereign will. As the sun climbed higher, casting rays of light that pierced the canopy of trees, David felt a burden upon his heart, a weight heavier than the gold of his crown. He gathered his loyal followers, the men of valor who still believed in the promise of God, and spoke with conviction. "Let us seek the face of the Lord together," he urged, "for in him lies our hope and our deliverance. Shall we not pray as our ancestors did before us?" With spirits united, they fell to their knees upon the rough ground, yearning for divine intervention. David, leading with fervent prayer, called upon the Lord, "O God of Israel, who has delivered your people time and again, hear our cry. Deliver us from the hands of my son Absalom, who has turned his heart against me. Remember your covenant and come to our aid." At that moment, the earth around them seemed to hold its breath, as if the very heavens were aligning to hear the supplication of the king. In the stillness that followed, a hush swept over the assembly, and they sensed the powerful presence of the Almighty. The reply came not in thunder but in a soft whisper, a reassurance that flowed like waters of comfort: "I have heard your prayers, O David, and I am with you still." Back in Jerusalem, Absalom feasted in pride, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within the hearts of the people. Ahithophel stood by his side, inclined to give counsel that would secure Absalom's throne. "Let me advise you to pursue your father at once. Strike while he is weary and scattered," urged Ahithophel, his eyes gleaming with ambition. "For if you do not crush him now, your rule shall be threatened beyond recovery." Yet as Absalom considered this advice, a spirit of apprehension stirred within him. He felt the fissures of doubt creeping into his heart. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to him, God was orchestrating a counter-strategy, using the very counsel of Ahithophel against him. Back in the wilderness, the faithful became a band of fervent prayer warriors. Each man offered a prayer, each voice lifting like incense before the throne of grace. It was then that David heard from the lips of a young soldier, "My king, we have not forgotten your valiant deeds nor the promises of the Lord. Let us gather more men, for the hearts of our people have felt your anguish. They await a sign of your strength." Encouraged, David strategized, "Let us send emissaries to rally the tribes. The Lord has not forsaken his anointed, and I believe he will restore our kingdom. We must act, yet remain in prayer." As the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues, a messenger approached from the wilderness, breathless and trembling. "My lord, your faithful have gathered. The hearts of Israel are turning toward you again. They cry out for a king who trusts in the Lord." This proclamation sparked an ember of hope within David's heart, igniting flames of courage. "Then let us rise as one," he proclaimed, "for the Lord our God fights for us and will grant us the victory." But amidst this resurgence of faith, a shadow loomed. Absalom remained unaware of the shifting allegiance and divine purposes in play. As night fell, the faithful approached the riverbanks, and together they lifted hymns of praise that wove through the darkness. In this sacred moment of unity and devotion, God moved. Amidst the songs whispered softly among the olive trees, David paused, sensing a deeper call within the prayers of his people. The Lord had set a miraculous plan in motion against the envy of Absalom and against every foe who sought to overthrow his anointed. Thus, with hearts aligned in divine purpose, David promised, "The Lord will bless us with victory greater than we have known, for our God works wonders among his people." As the whispers of prayers faded into the starry night, a foreboding revelation lingered, drawing closer. What divine twist awaited in the fabric of God's plan, hidden amidst shadows yet to be unveiled? The story of redemption was far from complete, and David knew the path ahead would lead to a confrontation far greater than he could envision. As the dawn broke over the hills of Mahanaim, light spilled like grace upon the weary assembly. David rose early, his heart still heavy with the weight of leadership yet buoyed by the fervent prayers of his people. He gathered his commanders, men of valor and devotion, and spoke decisively. "Today we shall prepare for battle, yet not with mere swords and shields, but with the faith that gives us strength. We are not merely men of war, we are the children of the Most High God." Each warrior donned his armor, yet in the depths of their spirits, they shared a greater understanding. They clasped each other's shoulders, bonds forged not only in duty but in unity under the banner of faith. David called forth Ahijah the priest, saying, "Bring the ephod, that we may seek the face of the Lord again. Let us inquire of him, for our hope is in his guidance." With the priest interceding for them, the men fell once more to their knees, hearts open in supplication. "Speak, O Lord," David entreated, "will you deliver us into the hands of our enemies this day? Shall we confront Absalom, or shall we await your divine decree?" In the silence that enveloped them, the same gentle whisper resounded, as if time itself stood still for a sacred moment. "Go forth, for I have delivered your son into your hands. Trust in my power, for my will prevails," the voice conveyed. A mighty roar of faith surged through the men, revitalizing their spirits. "We shall arise," David declared, "for the Lord goes before us. He fights for us." Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, the conspirators stirred. Absalom, emboldened by a multitude following his rebellion, prepared to pursue David. Yet unbeknownst to him, the counsel of Ahithophel, once a tool of his ambition, would soon falter under the weight of divine providence. For within the heart of Absalom dwelled uncertainty, a gnawing fear that whispered to his soul. Ahithophel, perceiving the hesitance in Absalom's countenance, breathed out his final counsel. "Seek out your father and his men swiftly, strike them while they are in retreat. For if you delay, the hearts of Israel may turn back to him, and your reign shall be but dust." Yet as Absalom contemplated the weighty counsel, he hesitated, plagued by visions of the sacred covenant that swirled about his choices. The Lord moved in the midst of his uncertainty, sowing doubt and stirring fear where once was unbridled pride. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows over the wilderness, David's forces prepared to march. The treetops whispered prayers as they passed, an echo of divine intention that followed them. There, amidst the dust and the fervor of anticipation, David declared, "Let us be true and faithful. For the Lord has fought for his people through generations, and today is no different." And so, the armies of Israel met in the vale, the air thick with tension and the palpable presence of God's Spirit. As charges were issued and battle lines were drawn, David sought the Lord in silence for strength. But as they faced one another, a divine sigh fell over the battlefield, and the hearts of David's men were strengthened, filled with an unshakable resolve. In that instant of preparation came a new revelation, a voice that rippled through the ranks: "The Lord shall not deliver the righteous fully into the hands of the wicked. Hope shall blaze like the morning sun." Now positioned before the enemy, the faithful awaited the signal. What twist awaited in the forthcoming clash? Would the righteousness of David stand against the rebellion of Absalom? Or would the God of Israel craft a story beyond all expectation? As battle cries merged with prayers, David knew that amidst chaos, the tapestry of God's salvation was emerging, a plan crafted from the beginning of time. What miracle awaited in the clash between father and son, and how would the God of unity and division reveal his sovereignty in the shadows of conflict? As the dust settled and the air hung heavy with anticipation, the men of David stood resolute, gazing upon the army of Absalom, their hearts steadfast in faith. The clash of righteousness and rebellion was nigh, a divine orchestration unfolding before their very eyes. In this moment, David raised his voice once more, recounting the deeds of the Lord throughout the ages. "Remember, brethren, how the Lord delivered us from the hands of Pharaoh and led us through the wilderness. His hand is not shortened that it cannot save." Then, with the trumpet's noble call, the battle commenced. The ground trembled under the weight of the countless feet marching toward destiny. As the two forces surged, a cacophony of anguished cries and fervent shouts filled the air, echoing the struggles within each man's heart. Absalom, mounted high and noble on a steed, surveyed the chaos before him. Yet amidst the tumult, a heavy cloud loomed over him, a shadow of doubt, a prick of conscience. Am I indeed destined to strike down my father? He pondered in anguish, wrestling with the very choices that had led him to this hour of decision. His prideful ambition waged war against the flickering flame of familial love, and in that internal struggle, the Lord's providence spoke softly to him, rendering his resolve frail as the autumn leaves. But even as Absalom's heart faltered, the forces of David pressed on, emboldened by the weight of prayer and divine guidance. The battle surged, and the men of Judah fought valiantly, wielding their swords not only as weapons, but as extensions of their faith. They cried aloud to the Lord, chanting, "For the Lord is our banner. He shall uphold us." Meanwhile, in the depths of the fray, the cunning of fate wove its way. Ahithophel, realizing that the tide was turning against the rebel prince, sensed a great folly stirring amongst the ranks of Absalom's men. The providence of God was swiftly breaking upon him, and his counsel seemed no longer to hold weight in the hearts of the lost. In a moment of divine clarity, an unexpected turn was set in motion. As the armies collided, a sudden chaos erupted. The steed beneath Absalom, startled by the clamor of battle, reared back violently. In this moment of turmoil, Absalom was cast into the thicket of the forest, entangled in the branches like a creation ensnared by sin. The forest itself became a testament to the judgment of God, and the heavenly host watched in silence, the very breath of divine decree manifesting in nature's grip. And there, amidst the chaos and clashing swords, David's heart was torn. "O Lord, is it truly my son? A child I cherished, now entangled in his own rebellion. His heart cried for the one he loved, consumed by the weight of a father's grief. Yet, he clung to the promise that God would work for the good of those who loved him. David turned then to his commanders, urgency etching his features. "Spare the lad Absalom. For he is my son. Do not let the sword of vengeance be drawn against him in this day." With commands reverberating through his men, the clash of battle continued, with harrowing uncertainty hanging in the air. Could this grievous day usher in profound redemption, not just for David, but for Absalom who had wandered far? As the echoes of battle filled the vale, a divine questioning lingered as a final hook for the hearts of many. Would God's mercy triumph over the human condition? Would his sovereign hand weave a narrative both painful and redemptive through this struggle between father and son? For unbeknownst to many, the Lord's purpose was yet to be revealed, and the dawn of understanding would soon break through the darkness of rebellion and anguish, heralding greater miracles to come. As the clash between the armies intensified, the air thickened with fervent prayers ascending like fragrant incense to the heavens. David, whose heart shattered at the thought of his son's end, poured out soul-wrenching supplications to the Lord. "O God of my fathers, if it be your will, let not Absalom perish in this day of reckoning. Spare us, O Lord, from striking down the light of my heart." The rattle of swords and cries of warriors did not drown the whispers of divine intervention stirring just beyond the vale. In the depths of the forest, where Absalom lay ensnared, the thumping of his heart reverberated through the trembling trees as he cried out, "Is there no mercy left for me? Am I undone by my own hand?" The branches that held him were now a nightmarish reminder of his misguided ambitions. In the midst of battle, a mighty warrior, Joab, stood resolute yet troubled. He was loyal to David and knew the king's anguish. As his keen eyes focused on the unfolding chaos, he wrestled within himself. With each swing of his sword, he sensed the teetering balance of destiny. Should I heed the desperate cries of my king or pursue the life of this traitor? He contemplated, yet the voice of conviction rang louder, urging caution. The men around Joab were filled with zeal, yet a shroud of unease began to settle among David's warriors. "Surely, we fight for the righteous," they murmured, glancing at their leader, the anointed of God. Thus, a wave of doubt and conflicting emotions swept through the ranks. Many of David's loyalists, eager for victory, felt the weight of his plea climb upon their spirits. Did they desire victory at the cost of bloodshed that would forever haunt their hearts? Meanwhile, Absalom's turmoil was palpable. Bound by the very limbs that grew in the shade of the promise made to him, he sought a way to escape his self-imposed fate. Could I not turn back? Find favor in my father's eyes once more? The chaos of war faded into the background as he envisioned reconciliation, casting aside bitterness and striving to reclaim his birthright as a beloved son. But Joab, with a heart heavy and resolute, steeled himself against the command of his king. He darted forth, a commander driven by conviction, not towards mere victory but urging reluctant obedience to the desire of a grieving father. Shall I let this rebel go unpunished? Shall I risk David's wrath for the sake of his misguided son? With a shout, he rallied the troops against the intertwining branches, resolute and relentless. With swift resolve, Joab reached Absalom, who remained entangled. As in the days of old, the Lord prescribes justice. He thundered, his sword reflecting the fury of heaven's decree. As Absalom looked upward, confusion mingled with fear. The dark specter of consequence loomed large, and the heart of David cried louder into the realms of divine mercy. Across the battleground, a silence fell. The world paused, awaiting the choices that would ripple through generations. The thunderous roar of uncertainty echoed in every heart. Would Joab fulfill his duty or would mercy triumph, pivoting the course of Israel's destiny? As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue upon the wavering front lines, a new thought emerged in the hearts of those fighting below. How grand and terrible is the grace of God which can redeem even the hearts most entwined in sin. Would the God of mercy reveal a plan woven within the threads of man's folly, shaping a future unknown? As David knelt in prayer, fervently beseeching God, a divine mystery lingered in the air, igniting hope, could it be that from this anguish a greater good was yet to blossom? For the hearts of many awaited, breathless for the mercy that would echo through the ages, destined to reveal the deeper layers of divine love and sovereign resurrection. As Joab's sword flashed in the dim light, the moment hung heavy, pregnant with unspoken fate. Absalom's breath quickened, his heart racing as he weighed the judgments of men against the unseen decree of heaven. "O Lord, what shall become of me?" he uttered softly, with the rustle of leaves framing his desperation. In that fateful encounter, Joab's heart quaked, torn between the loyalty to his king and the compassion stirred within him for the son of David. "Is it justice or mercy that our hearts are called to uphold?" he questioned, the weight of the call to war pressing upon him like a mantle. Around him, the loyal warriors stood steadfast, yet their spirit waned, caught in the bitter strife within. "Let not the blood of a father's son stain the ground. Hear the cries of David." Joab shouted, rallying not just the troops, but calling upon the heavens, seeking divine favor amidst the storm. The air thickened with tension as every warrior became suspended in the clashing desires of loyalty and righteousness. And then, as if summoned by the gravity of the moment, the cloud of divine presence enveloped the battlefield. An eerie stillness fell, and all gazed toward Joab, who lowered his sword, quelling the battle-ready breath of men. "We shall not crush the heart of our king. We will honor the mercy that God may still grant." Victory seemed uncertain, now interlaced with divine intervention and the hope for reconciliation. Joab approached Absalom, hesitating at the precipice between life and death. "I could end this chaos with but one stroke," he murmured to himself. Yet his heart, being alive to the cries of his sovereign, whispered, "This is God's will, to whom shall we yield?" In the far distance, David remained on his knees, the tears cascading down his weathered face like rain upon parched ground, pleading, "O God, I beseech you, spare my son." A flood of sorrow swept through him, echoing the sobs of a father's heart offered up on the altar of sacrifice. In that prayer, the heavens heard him, and the winds whispered of change being wrought. And so it was that as Joab stood before Absalom, he propped his sword against the earth, risking all. "If there is still breath left within you, let it be a lesson learned," he declared, wrestling between consequence and compassion. "May you yet return to your father, for the heart of a father yearns deeper than blood." With a breath born of a final plea, Absalom's voice wavered, "Then I shall seek to mend the torn fabric of my family and walk no longer in the shadows of pride." His fervor sparked a flicker of hope, and even the men surrounding Joab were struck with the realization of grace amidst turmoil. Through the stillness, the voice of God resonated among them, reflecting upon the souls caught in turmoil, and a divine decree unfurled in the hearts of those present. "For I have plans to prosper you, declares the Lord, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." In that tumultuous hour, embroiled in conflict and cries for recompense, a prophetic word loomed, shimmering with the promise of redemption. Perhaps, in this desolation, God was preparing to unveil a tapestry woven with threads of mercy and salvation, wherein the scepter would pass not merely through bloodline but through the grace that beckoned all unto himself. Who could fathom the depths of God's sovereign hand turning folly into purpose, enmity into unity? As the light dimmed, the roar of battle ebbed away, but the heartbeats of the faithful quickened, aware of a truth dawning on the horizon. The Lord's plan was greater than their understanding, and redemption awaited just beyond the veil of forever. Thus, every eye turned toward the unfolding story, waiting and watching for the revelation of his purpose, knowing deep within that the greatest blessing often arises from the shadows of despair. As dawn's light timidly broke over the horizon, the tension in the air still clung like morning mist. The armies of Israel, once ready to clash, stood in a stunned silence that echoed across the valleys. Joab, his heart still racing with the weight of mercy shown, glanced at Absalom, who now knelt among the fallen leaves, aware of the immense gravity of hope reawakened. "Can you feel it?" Joab whispered, stepping closer, his voice low and urgent. "The breath of the Almighty flows around us. It may be that his mercy has carved a path where none existed." Absalom nodded, the weight of forgiveness dawning within him, yet the shadows of his past loomed large. Yet, he said, his voice trembling, can a heart broken be mended? Can a son return to a father who has known only anguish? At that moment, a messenger approached, his robe billowing with urgency. There is news from Hebron. He proclaimed, breathless as he reached Joab. The elders send word of a gathering, for Absalom, your name has stirred their hearts. With a nod, Joab signaled for the man to continue, while worry etched lines on his rugged brow. The people long for unity, and with your return, they speak of a reconciliation. Many wish to embrace you as their king. Yet, there are those who whisper of treachery concerning David, your father, seeking to divide the kingdom. Betrayal dwells close, Joab cautioned, scanning the horizon with a warrior's eye. Rebellion waits like a serpent hidden, ever seeking to strike. David, still in prayer, felt the tremors of change ripple through the land. His heart, however, wrestled with dread. O Lord, he cried, give me wisdom to discern truth from deceit, for the hearts of men are brooding and restless. The Spirit of God moved upon him, whispering softly yet profoundly, fear not, for I am with you. As I saved Isaac upon the altar and returned him to Abraham, so shall I restore your son unto you. Trust in my plan. With renewed resolve, David rose, shedding his sorrow like a cloak. He prepared to meet Absalom, knowing that only through divine guidance could peace be ushered into their fractured relationship. As news spread that Absalom had been spared, the hearts of men stirred in wonder. Who now leads a son against his father? They whispered. Is it Absalom who walks in redemption, or have we seen the barest glimpse of God's purpose? The words of Isaiah echoed silently among them, for unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. Joab recalled this prophecy, marveling at how God's promises entwined even the darkest chapters of human folly into a divine narrative. As the day unfolded, both father and son stood on the precipice of reconciliation, with the distant mountains watching, holding their breath in anticipation. In the space between moments, David and Absalom met, hesitance cloaking their hearts, yet a covenant spirit lingered. Shall we not walk together as we sought to mend our ways? David ventured, his voice a soft plea rising from a foundation of heartache. And so, the scene beckoned divine destiny to intertwine their fates, a sacred pact born not in perfection but in the marred beauty of restoration. For lo, a new chapter had begun to unfold in their lives, born from struggle and sacrifice. Each step they took echoed the truth of God's promises, a future imbued with hope, abiding grace, and a legacy beyond imagination. Yet as they moved forward, a shadow loomed in the background, unseen by their reconciled eyes. A flicker of betrayal coiled, plotting a scheme that would not only challenge their bond but could potentially alter the throne of Israel. And the question lingered, unvoiced yet pressing, what conflict would emerge, and how would God's sovereign will be displayed through the trials ahead? For in the heart of every misstep, the Lord's hand crafted a divine tapestry, weaving history toward an unexpected resolution. As the sun ascended higher, spilling its golden rays upon the land of Israel, David's heart stirred with both hope and trepidation. The weight of his son's reconciliation was accompanied by the specter of conflict and betrayal that loomed unseen. He turned his gaze to Absalom, whose youthful countenance was marked by the complexity of a man torn between longing for a father's approval and the allure of power. Absalom, David spoke, his voice steadied by divine purpose, let us not dwell upon the shadows that seek to engulf us. We must walk in the light that the Lord has shown before us. My heart yearns for unity, yet wisdom tells us to be vigilant. Absalom's brow furrowed, and he nodded in agreement, yet a storm brews within his spirit, for ambition sometimes clouds the paths of those who seek recognition. Father, he whispered, the people's voices rise in my name. They gather with fervor. Would it not be wise to address their affections, to reassure them of my desire for peace? Indeed, but heed my word, son, David cautioned gently. The throne is the Lord's, and though men may seek you, you must not be led astray by the whispers of flattery. Remember Solomon, my son, chosen by God to lead rightly, a promise that extends beyond mere image. At that moment, a group of elders approached, their faces imbued with a mix of curiosity and resolute determination. David, king of Israel, one elder spoke, "The people have spoken, and their hearts are drawn toward Absalom. Speak to them, for they seek a leader who embodies strength and vision." David, gathering his thoughts, placed his hand upon the arm of Absalom. "Then let us go together, not as rivals, but as a testament to reconciliation under God's grace. For in unity, we shall present a strong front to those who plot against us." As they stepped forward, the sound of the people's gathering surged around them like a river swelling, carrying the echoes of fervent cries for a new beginning. Absalom took his place among the elders, sensing both admiration and the weight of expectation. "My people," he proclaimed, his voice rising above the tumult. "I stand before you, not merely as a son returned but as a vessel of hope and renewal. Let us build a kingdom where justice and mercy flow like waters." Yet within the masses, murmurs simmered like boiling potage. Some hearts still clung to past grievances against David, while others considered Absalom's words a reckless gambit. Joab, discerning the unease swirling in the air, leaned close to David. "My king, a storm brews beneath the surface. The crown can harness loyalty, but it can also unveil deception." "Then pray," David replied, his heart still tethered to the throne of God. "Let us seek his guidance. For it is the Lord who raises one and brings down another." They knelt before the altar, where the sweet smoke of offerings curled toward heaven. As David petitioned God, a profound silence fell over the gathered crowd. "O Lord, you who know the hearts of all, grant wisdom to navigate the treachery that lay ahead. May our actions be instruments of your peace." And as his prayer hung in the air like a fragrance of incense, the Spirit of God began to stir. A deep peace fell upon David and Absalom, as if the unity of their hearts was assured by the very hand of God. But in the distance, a whisper slithered through the trees, a courser of discontent stirred in the shadows, plotting against the harmony revered above. A flicker of envy ignited, ready to consume the very bond that had just ignited. For the purpose of God echoes through each moment, awakening hearts even while preparing the stage for treacherous undertones yet to be revealed. What trials lie ahead for David and Absalom? What extraordinary moves of God are woven within this tale of redemption? The answers await as the sun casts its waning light, illuminating a path filled with divine intent and unwavering covenant in the face of human fragility. As the sun dipped towards the horizon, casting long shadows over the land, a divine stillness swept across Israel, a stillness that heralded the presence of the Almighty, preparing to unveil his ultimate plan for redemption and reconciliation. David and Absalom stood before the multitude, hearts converging in a moment fraught with tension yet laced with hope, knowing well the gravity of their actions and the divine purpose that hung over them. "Let it be known," David declared, voice steady as the towering cedars surrounding them, "that the Lord has brought us together in this hour, not merely as father and son, but as vessels of his promise. May our unity shine forth as a beacon, guiding the hearts of our people back to the ancient paths of righteousness." Absalom, emboldened by his father's words yet burdened by the weight of ambition, lifted his hands to the crowd. "Hear me, people of Israel. For I stand before you, not in rebellion but in restoration. I seek the welfare of our land, the healing of our hearts, and the prosperity of our homes. Together, we shall forge a kingdom that reflects the goodness of the Lord." Yet, within the shadows, the whispers of betrayal stirred, coiling like dark vines around the hearts of men. Among the people, some whispered of discontent, while others longed for peace, but uncertainty lay like dust in the air, waiting to settle. And lo, from amidst the throng, came a messenger, breathless with anxious tidings. The hearts of the people are swayed, but there are those who sow seeds of discord. The counsel of deceit is at work, seeking to pit father against son, to create rebellion anew. His voice, urgent and foreboding, echoed through the assembly, bringing silence, sobering every heart. David, keenly aware of the spiritual battleground that had emerged, raised his voice in prayer. "O Lord of hosts, we stand at the precipice of choice. Grant us discernment to see through the veils of disloyalty. Deliver us from the schemes of those who would see our house divided. The sky darkened briefly, a soft whisper of thunder echoing the gravity of his words, as if heaven itself listened intently. Then Joab, with resolve, stepped forward. "My king, let us not be shaken by diversion. We must rally our loyalists around you, to remind our people that a divided house cannot stand. We must reflect the Lord's vision, sowing seeds of love and trust with actions of unity." Thus, Absalom and David, in a sacred pact of reconciliation, led the assembly in a fresh commitment to their covenant with God and each other. Hand in hand, they declared, "We shall dwell together, united under the God who reclaimed our hearts." Let our actions speak louder than the whispers that call for division. As a chorus of amens rang through the crowd like a triumphant cry, the Spirit of God palpably moved among them, stirring hearts and reigniting hope. In that moment, David felt the heavy burdens lifting, for he believed anew in the promises of God, a promise of restoration, not only for himself and Absalom but for all Israel. Yet even in the resounding declarations of commitment to unity, a dark storm brewed in the recesses of men's hearts. Ahithophel, who once served Absalom, queried in secret chambers with those who had not yielded to reconciliation. His counsel, laced with bitterness, struck against the narratives of trust God sought to weave. "Rise and stir discontent," he implored, "for if you strike while their spirits are high, you may yet turn their hearts once more against them." But the Lord, even then, was at work. As the forces of treachery conspired, he sent a young warrior, a boy named Sheba, to carry news to David, a warning that the hidden treason was rising like smoke on the winds. "My king, keep watch over your hearts. For there are those who plot against you, dreaming of crowns and power in this dividing hour." Filled with fervor and godly wisdom, David gathered his commanders once more. "Let us confront this betrayal with the love of our God. We must douse the flames of discontent with the waters of unity and peace. For it is written, a soft answer turns away wrath. Let us respond not with swords but with deeds that echo our commitment." As they prepared the nation for reconciliation and restoration, David's heart soared in the knowledge that God's plan extended beyond the clear path laid before him. He remembered the words spoken long ago to him by Nathan the prophet, words not only of curses but of a blessed lineage yet to unfold through trials and triumph. The armies of Israel mobilized under the banner of peace, and the people rallied together, witnessing the living testimony of a king who, amidst conflict and strife, sought the face of the Lord. Then the day of resolution arrived. The assembly gathered not as divided factions but as a cohesive body with one purpose: to honor God and restore the kingdom. David stood before them once more, now gripped with both authority and humility. "People of Israel, let us embrace the new dawn together. The hand of the Almighty is upon us, and we shall not waver in the face of today's trials." Amidst the sea of faces, hope reawakened. The people began to understand that their spirits, once entangled in strife, were being restored through the divine orchestration of reconciliation. "Let not your hearts be troubled," came the resonant voice of David. "For the Lord is with us, and glory shall resound in our unity, the foundation of a kingdom reborn." As the sun dipped low, enveloping them in hymn and prayer, the stronghold of treachery faltered, yielding space for healing and restoration to flow freely in the heart of the nation. Even amidst uncertainty, the unrivaled hope of divine unity blazed brightly, lighting a path forward. "Return to the Lord." The crowd chanted, a wave of fervor transforming desire into action. And amidst this sacrificial love, poisoned ambitions withered away like autumn leaves, swept aside by the winds of grace. Thus, Israel stood together, united under the banner of their great Redeemer. David and Absalom, no longer adversaries but allies bound by the threads of divine destiny, stepped into the light of a new covenant, a living testament to God's unending faithfulness and love. And at last, in the profound silence that followed their declarations, the heavens opened wide as the fragrance of divine favor enveloped the land. People of God, as we witness this powerful transformation, let us be compelled to respond. Subscribe immediately to our channel, for the stories of His faithfulness await, stories that will inspire and uplift your very soul. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, ensuring that others may witness his miraculous works. Comment below with how this journey of redemption touched your faith and what you cherish most about God's grace. Do not wait another moment. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear the truth of God's promises. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to His Word, for the stories we share could very well change lives. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth far and wide.